Good morning, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing a video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. It is early Sunday morning, August 24th, and I am 1 week away from my birthday. I'll be 49 years old in exactly a week. And I want to talk this morning about some practices, some parenting practices that still go on commonly, especially in certain religious circles, known as paddling. And I want to talk about the motivation for it, the outcome of it. The obviously the reasons are pretty clear. I mean, sometimes children misbehave, and there's some wisdom to structure and discipline, of course. And I'm gonna jump right in to the pros and cons because I have been a parent. I've been a step parent, and I've also raised a child with some challenges, some emotional and behavioral challenges. So I have some experience here, but I want to talk about the proper way to handle behavior problems and to set boundaries and establish standards, because you do, or else the children run the place. And sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not so great, especially if there's something important going on, something, potentially safety oriented or life threatening even. So the paddle. My general feeling can be summed up with the phrase, it is rolled out too soon and too often. And there are lots of sayings that sometimes contradict each other, like words of wisdom from our ancestors who say, you spoil the rod, or I'm sorry, you spare the rod, you spoil the child. And there's a time and a place to invoke words of wisdom for particular situations. And it's not every situation with every person. So, for example, there is a challenge in parenting, any parenting, where there's a peaceful solution up to a point, and it's not always easy. Here's the problem. It's not always fast or easy to encourage a young person or anybody to change their behavior, to respect a boundary, behave a certain way. But it's super easy and fast to use the paddle. So it becomes kind of a catch-all. It's a lazy, ominous threat, and the ultimate problem is that you're telling the kid every time you pull that paddle out that consequences dictate course of action. Okay. No, they don't. So here's the problem. It's a huge problem, because you're telling the kid at the same time, whether you realize it or not, when you brandish that paddle, even if it's not literally, if it's just, wherever it lives in your closet or whatever, you're telling that kid that the gun is the reason. The gun is the reason that people behave. And that's just not true. Right and wrong don't depend on who's holding the gun. They don't depend on other people's reactions. They don't depend on demands or threats. They don't depend on people being scary or those are all ways for people to abuse a situation. And frankly, it's like I said, it's lazy, it's uncreative, it's uninspired, it's predictable, and it only hurts you as a parent when you pull that paddle out. If it's more than say once or twice, like in the entire time that your normal kid is growing up. Now, if it's a different kind of kid, maybe they need more structure, but that wouldn't necessarily be a paddle. If your kid has some kind of developmental disability or a learning disability, that's a different subject. I'm not talking about kids who are differently abled. I'm talking about kids who are normally adaptive and reasonably intelligent. If you pull that paddle out more than say twice or maybe three times in the entire time that you are a parent, you're failing. You're failing in your job. And at that point, like by the third or fourth time, I would like to know about it. I'm just going to be completely frank, because it becomes a pathetic example of child abuse. And I'm going to say one more thing, that 9 times out of 10, a parent's frustration with their kid has less to do with the kid than the parent's schedule. Okay, you have a timeline, right? You have things that you want to get done, things that are important to you. Well, so does the kid. I'm just saying. And it may not seem as important. It may actually seem like, your appointment or your deadline or your beer or whatever, or, especially if you've been drinking. I mean, if you have been drinking and you pull out that paddle, we already have a problem, okay? Because you're not thinking clearly. So I want to be clear to any kids who ever may see this video. If you get paddled, you know whether you did something wrong or not. Every living creature is born knowing right from wrong, unless there's some kind of mental deformity. Every living creature knows right from wrong. And if you, after getting that paddle, maybe once, know that you deserved it, that's one thing, okay. But if you're getting that thing unnecessarily, and if you know it's not productive, you're in a tough spot. You're in a tough spot, and I will personally help you, but I'm just one person, and I'm probably nowhere near you. And I know what I would do. I'm not going to suggest it or recommend it. I would paddle the parent myself, and it doesn't take more than once. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Nobody's trying to hear this, but if your parent's getting all heavy-handed, especially if there's no good reason for it, slap that bitch. I'm sorry. Hey, respect for elders goes both ways. They got to earn that. Pardon me. You want to get heavy-handed? That goes both ways. And they learn quick. Parents learn too. Imagine that. If consequences dictate course of action, fall in line. Do what you're supposed to do as a parent. Maybe get sober if that's what is needed. Maybe realize that you're not the only one with a schedule of some kind who has important things to them. Maybe realize that it's not all about you. You're not trying to, live through your kids and make them just, smaller versions of yourself. Maybe they're exploring who they are and what they enjoy and finding out the boundaries. Okay, do it right. Do it right. Do it with love. Do it with kindness and a good example, or get the shit slapped out of you too. Okay? All right. Have a great day, and reach out with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.